Welcome back, everybody. These are the best horror films of 1999. We are now winding down the 90s. We already covered all the best horror films of every year of the 90s. Now let's go ahead and check out the best horror films of 1999. Let's check out what was scaring audiences worldwide. All right, let's check out the list. Alien Blood. How far would a mother go to get her child safely home, if home were another planet? Fantasy, horror, and sci-fi. Alien Blood. Next up we have is Anthropophagus 2000. A group of friends stumble on to the killing grounds of a cannibalistic loner who then mercilessly stalks down party one by one. Horror and thriller. That looks good. The Astronaut's Wife. After an explosion in space and subsequent 2-minute radio out period, 2 astronauts return home to their wives. Slightly, it's revealed that they're not the same as they were. Attack of the Bat Monsters. A group of low-budget filmmakers make a horror movie. Attack of the Bat Monsters. This movie is a scorcher. You'll love it. Audition. A widower takes an offer to screen girls at a special audition arranged for him by a friend to find him a new wife. Splatter horror drama, horror mystery. Bats. I Love Bats with Lou Diamond Phillips. This is a great movie. Genetically mutated bats escape, and it's up to a bat expert and the local sheriff to stop them. Bats. Beowulf. In a besieged land, Beowulf must battle against hideous creature Grendel and his vengeance-seeking mother. Action, adventure, fantasy, and horror. Beowulf. The Blair Witch Project. 3 film students vanish after traveling into a Maryland forest to film a documentary on the local Blair Witch legend, leaving only their footage behind. When this movie came out, it was great. Now you can goof on it, but it was a good movie. Blood Dolls. Virgil, an eccentric freak billionaire, spends his days being a biological inventor. The Blood Dolls, his newest creation, aid him in getting revenge on those who betrayed him. Blood Kiss. Danny Dodd is a haunted man. 16 years ago, a vampire killed his wife, Elaine, and kidnapped his daughter, Trudy. Crime and horror. Blood Kiss. Bloodthirsty. A beautiful young woman develops a fetish for drinking blood from the veins of her roommates. Isn't that gross? Bloodthirsty. Horror and thriller. Roommates can be murder. Camp Blood. Out and about on a camping trip in the woods without a care in the world, 4 campers found themselves in an unknown world, with the death of their guide and the mercy of a cold-blooded killer. Horror. Camp Blood. Wide open with nowhere to run. Candyman, Day of the Dead. The Candyman is back, trying to convince his descendant, an artist, to join him. Tony Todd, rest in peace, Candyman. Cannibal Doctor. A doctor and his wife plan to eat a tender young girl to stay young. Cannibal Doctor. Horror. Featuring Aaron Brown and Tina Krause. Celluloid Nightmares. A female reporter researching underground sex films stumbles across a snuff film, and her further investigation causes the filmmakers to take action against her. Children of the Corn. 666. Isaac's Return. We love Isaac. As a teenage girl comes to Gatlin to find her biological mother, the town's infamous cult plots a comeback as their leader, Isaac, awakens. Cold Hearts. Victoria was very into vampire lore, so much so that she gave herself to what she thought would be a romantic life. Horror thriller, Cold Hearts, Eternity Bites. Das Combratal Duel. When a man is killed by drunk driving, his son wants revenge, which starts a big battle that will continue for years. Das Brutal Duel. Cool Air. Randolph Carter moves into a squalid boarding house in the summer of 1925 where he becomes friends with a mysterious doctor who revives him after a near-fatal heart attack. Horror. The sky is on fire. The ozone is depleted, and the result of this, all sorts of things are happening like lethal insects flying around. Action, adventure, drama, sci-fi, and horror. The sky is on fire. Countdown, the sky is on fire. Curiosity and the cat. Ryder gets curious about the violent and sadomasochistic ongoings in his neighbor's apartments. Crime, horror, and thriller. Curiosity and the cat. Curse of the Blair Witch. This is a made-for-TV movie, a mockumentary exploring the life of the Blair Witch and the 3 missing student filmmakers. So after the success of Blair Witch Project, Curse of the Blair Witch came rolling out. Deep Blue Sea. I like this movie. Searching for a cure to Alzheimer's disease, a group of scientists on an isolated research facility become the prey as a trio of intelligent sharks fight back. Deep Blue Sea. Desecration. 16-year-old Bobby is emotionally damaged by his mother's early death. He accidentally causes a nun's death, unleashing a chain of supernatural events that lead him into the pits of hell. Dracula in Vegas. A young German vampire arrives in Las Vegas in order to put the bite on unsuspecting showgirls and hookers, sluts, and tramps. Dracula in Vegas. This movie was made to video. Drawing blood. A vampire artist forces an aspiring young artist to bring her victims so she can kill them and then paint them with their own blood. Comedy and horror. Drawing blood. Duck. The Carbine High Massacre. Jerwin and Derek, neo-Nazis, plan to commit a school shooting and kill themselves after a sick joke by the school jocks. Duck. The Carbine High Massacre. This was straight to video. End of Days. At the end of the century, Satan visits New York in search of a bride. It's up to ex-cop who now runs an elite security outfit to stop him. End of Days. Fear Runs Silent. A high school class goes on an overnight trip to the woods. There they encounter a mysterious force intent on killing them all. Horror. Fear Runs Silent. So if you like kills, you'll love this movie. Top of the food chain. Something is eating the residents of Exceptional Vista. Top of the food chain. Parody, comedy, horror, and sci-fi. Featuring Campbell Scott and Fiona Lowe. Freak. An orderly from a mental hospital transports a boy who kills his mother in the opening scene of the movie to another institution. Slasher horror thriller. If looks can kill, you're already dead. From Dusk Till Dawn 2, Texas Blood Money. 5 career criminals gather in Mexico to pull off a bank heist. They soon realize that they are up against far more frightening creatures than the police pursuing them. Contemporary Western crime and horror. From Dusk Till Dawn 3, The Hangman's Daughter. Set 100 years ago in Mexico, this horror western is the story of the birth of the vampire princess, Santanico Pandemonium, vampire horror. Gamera 3, Revenge of Iris. Gamera's ties to humanity have been severed as the Gaios re-emerge. Kaiju, monster horror, supernatural fantasy, and horror. Gamera 3. Girl Hell, 1999. Misaki is a girl trapped in a world violent beyond compare. Her home life is a wreck, 2 men are interested in her, and a homeless woman she regularly visits. But little does she know, terror comes her way. Go to Hell. This is a tabloid news journalist has his soul stolen and must go to hell to steal it back. Adventure, comedy, and horror. Go to Hell. Godzilla 2000. An independent group of researchers actively track Godzilla as a giant meteor is discovered. The mysterious rock begins to levitate as its true intentions for the world and Godzilla are revealed. Disaster, urban adventure, and horror. Hell Block 13. In a haunted death row cell block, a deranged female serial killer reads a trio of twisted tales to her executioner. Horror and thriller. Hell Block 13. Hookers in a haunted house. Outrageous shenanigans galore as three gorgeous call girls spend the night in a creepy old mansion haunted by the murderous spirit of Big Bag Job. Comedy and horror. Hot Wax Zombies on Wheels. A sleepy fishing village is terrorized by a band of hairless zombies on motorcycles. Hot Wax Zombie on Wheels will not disappoint. If you love hot bodies and zombies, you'll love this movie. House on Haunted Hill. An amusement park mogul offers a group of diverse people $1 million to spend the night in a haunted house with a horrifying past. Supernatural horror, and mystery. Idle Hands. A teenager slacker's right hand becomes possessed with a murderous intent. Body horror dark comedy featuring Seth Green. Everybody loves Seth Green. Dark comedy teen horror. In Dreams. Drama, fantasy, horror, and thriller. A suburban housewife learns that she has a dream world connection to a serial murderer and must stop him from killing again. In Dreams. Japanese Hell. 16-year-old Rika wants to leave a murderous cult, but she is sent to hell where she meets demons and souls who have committed heinous and outrageous crimes. Horror. This is Japanese Hell. King Cobra. A mutated snake escapes from a laboratory and terrorizes the residents of a small California brewery town. 30 feet of pure terror, action, adventure, horror, and sci-fi. Colobos. 5 young individuals live in an isolated lodge, filming their daily activities, but the house is locked down, and they encounter a murderous serial killer. Slasher horror, mystery thriller. Colobos. You'll love Colobos. Komodo. After witnessing his parents being killed by creatures on an island as a child, a young man is brought back to the island a few years later by a psychiatrist only to be terrorized by the same creatures. Adventure, horror, sci-fi, and thriller. Lake Placid. Everybody loves Lake Placid. Featuring Betty White. 4 people attempt to stop a gigantic crocodile who is terrorizing residents in Black Lake, Maine. Lake Placid. Action, comedy, and horror. Lighthouse. Slasher horror thriller. Members of a sunken prison ship take refuge at an old lighthouse, unaware one of their most notorious criminals has taken shelter there as well. They'll be killing. The Nameless. 5 years after a mom's 6-year-old girl is murdered, she gets a phone call from someone claiming to be the daughter. An ex-cop and a reporter help. A secret group called The Nameless may be behind it all. Drama, horror, mystery, and thriller. Memorial Day. An embittered satellite expert gets the opportunity for revenge against the USA by aiding terrorists in a plan to destroy the country's military base. Memorial Day. Action, thriller, and horror. Nightfall. An FBI agent who doesn't believe in the supernatural thinks mysterious murders plaguing the city are the work of a psycho until he sees proof of a vampire. Nightfall. This movie's good. The Ninth Gate. Dean, a rare book dealer, is hired to find the last 2 copies of a text that holds the key to summoning the devil. Psychological thriller, mystery, and thriller. Next up we have is Phantom Town. Straight to video. When a 16-year-old boy and his two siblings set off on a quest to find their missing parents, their search leads them to a ghost town in the middle of the desert. horror and western. Possessed, drama, fantasy, horror, and thriller. A man is found in an airport dead of a mysterious disease. A race begins to save humanity from what could be a global plague. Possessed. Presence of mind. A governess hired to care for children at a wealthy estate encounters supernatural occurrences tied to former staff. Clashing with the housekeeper, she tries to safeguard the children while uncovering the property's dark history. Primal Force, made for TV. Rescuers try to reach plane crash victims that are trapped on an isolated Mexican island, populated by mutant baboons. Action, adventure, horror, and sci-fi. Primal Force. Ragdoll. I love Ragdoll. Look at her little face. A teenage rapper uses his grand's magic powers to help him in his revenge against those who put her in the hospital. Ragdoll. I love Ragdoll. The little black Ragdoll. The Rage, Carrie 2. Teen horror, drama, horror, sci-fi. A horrible massacre strikes up, and after an outcast teenage girl is taunted by a group of high school jocks. The Rage, Carrie 2 gets revenge. Ravenous. In a remote military outpost in the 19th century, Captain John Boyd and his regiment embark on a rescue mission which takes a dark turn when they are ambushed by a sadistic cannibal. Ravenous. Red Room. 4 random people volunteer to participate in a mysterious game for chance to win 10 million yen. They have to take turns torturing their fellow players until only one is left. What would you do for 10 million yuan? Resurrection. Chicago homicide detectives Prudhomme and Hollingsworth are assigned to investigate a murder. Crime, drama, horror, and mystery. Resurrection. Revelation. Dystopian sci-fi, action, drama, sci-fi, and horror. In this sequel to Apocalypse, caught in the eye of the storm, a police officer is searched for answers, joins a rebel group of Christians to thwart the Antichrist plans to use virtual reality to solidify his power. Ring, the final chapter. Asakawa is a journalist. He is witness to the strange death of Biker. Later this day, he learned that his niece Tomoko died suddenly of heart failure at the same time as the biker, so he decides to investigate. Ring 2. Riko takes Yoki into hiding when her son begins to display frightening powers. Horror, mystery, and sci-fi. Ring 2, The Ring. The Ring virus. The Ring was everywhere. After the mysterious death of their niece and other 3 teenagers on the same hour and with the symptoms of the heart attack, the journalist Sunju decides to investigate. Horror, The Ring virus. Rock and Roll Frankenstein. A music agent, his necrophiliac nephew, and a burnout roadie join forces to create a superstar from the body parts of legendary dead rockers. Rock and Roll Frankenstein. Rot. Sarah has a surprise and gruesome announcement for Muzzy. She has contracted a deadly virus called Rot, which she got by sexing a dead guy from the local funeral home. Body horror and horror. Rot. School's out. After escaping from a nearby mental institution, a violent, lunatic, and sexual deviant terrorizes a group of seniors at their end of the year high school dance. Teen horror, mystery, thriller. School's out. Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost. Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Gang visit Oak Haven, Massachusetts to seek strange going-ons involving a famous horror novelist and his ancestor who was rumored to be a witch. See you in hell, my darling. Vera, Elsa, a man and the great love that unites them. They grew up together but didn't get very far. Leaving behind a desolate world full of traps, they begin hallucinogenic journey of tenderness. Shark attack. In a once serene African fishing village, a marine biologist goes in search of some answers when his friend becomes a victim in one of a series of brutal shark attacks. Action, horror, sci-fi, thriller, Shark Attack. Silent Predators. A small town deals with invasion of rattlesnakes. I noticed in 1998 and 1999, a lot of movies with snakes and boas and reptiles. So silent predators. No more slasher films per se, but a lot of reptile killings. Crocodiles, alligators, snakes, cobras. 16 tongues. The lives of an assassin and her hacker girlfriend are shattered when they cross paths with a rogue cop holed up inside an S&M hotel. Horror sci-fi, 16 tongues. Sleepy Hollow. Ichabod Crane is sent to Sleepy Hollow to investigate the decapitations of 3 people. The culprit is legendary apparition the Headless Horseman. Sleepy Hollow, dark fantasy, slasher horror, supernatural. Snuff perversions, bizarre cases of death. A criminal psychologist and a police detective introduce what purports to be an educational police film intended to be shown to law enforcement cadets, showing nearly every type of unnatural death. Sombre. A sexually frustrated serial killer takes a liking to a woman he comes across. Drama and horror. Sombre. 1999. An exploration of the Blair Witch legend. That's already 3-4 films now in 1999 with the Blair Witch. Straight to video. This short film was originally offered by Blockbuster Video to promote the rental sales of the Blair Witch Project. Stigmata. When a young girl becomes afflicted by stigmata, a priest is sent to investigate her case, which may have severe ramifications for his faith and for the Catholic Church itself. Supernatural horror and horror. Stir of Echoes. After being hypnotized by his sisters-in-law, a man begins seeing haunting visions of a girl's ghost, and a mystery begins to unfold around him. Stirs of Echoes. Supernatural horror, horror, and mystery. Storm of the Century. A dangerous blizzard hits an isolated town and brings along a mysterious stranger intent on terrorizing people for his own desires. Drama, fantasy, horror, and thriller. Storm of the Century. Teenage space vampires. Alien invasion, action, sci-fi, and horror. Bill, a horror fan, spots a UFO carrying a vampire-like alien who wants to envelop Earth into darkness and colonize it. Tell Me Something. Crime, horror, mystery, and thriller. Lieutenant Cho, a cop on the edge, is mourning his mother's recent death while under investigation for graft. Tell Me Something. Crime, horror, mystery, and thriller. Tequila Body Shots. Comedy, horror, and thriller. 3 buddies discover a road trip to party in Mexico can take more out than you can expect. Things begin to take a strange turn when Johnny gets mind-reading powers from a medicine man's magical tequila. The Clown at Midnight. Slasher horror, teen horror, and horror. 7 teenagers are stalked by a murderous clown while refurbishing an old opera house. This movie is good. The Clown at Midnight, you would like. The Fear. Resurrection. It's death by fear in this deceptively psychological thriller. Horror. The Fear. Resurrection. It's Halloween night, The Fear. So this takes place on Halloween night. The Green Elephant. 2 Russian prisoners are abused mentally and physically. Comedy, horror, and thriller. The Green Elephant. This is I believe, a Russian film. So take that for what it is. The Haunting. Dr. Morrow enlists Theo, Luke, and Nell for a study of sleep disorders at the Hill House. As soon as the terrifying truth about the mansion is revealed, everyone is found fighting for their lives, but no one can sleep. The Killer Eye. A mad scientist experiment goes awry, turning a dead homeless man's eyeball into a giant killing machine that has an insatiable appetite for young women. The Killer Eye. B-horror, parody, comedy, and horror. The Mummy. With Brendan Fraser. Everybody loves this movie. An archaeological dig in an ancient city of Hamunaptra. An American serving in the French Foreign Legion accidentally awakens the mummy. What a great movie. The Coroner. Eventually, everyone visits the coroner, but city coroner Dr. Leon Ursaki isn't content with waiting for you to die. He's coming for you now. I love it. The coroner. It's true. Eventually, everyone does visit the coroner. It's true. The Curse. A dark comedy about Frida, whose doctor says her PMS is all in her head. Comedy and horror. But she goes on a killing spree, killing people. The Curse. The Deadly Camp. A psychotic family kills people that trespass on their own lonely island. Horror. So this is also a Japanese film. That's called The Deadly Camp. So it's a comedy and horror. The House on Dame Street. Comedy horror. An investigator investigating the disappearance of a previous investigator runs into a spot of bother involving things that are not quite dead. The House on Dane Street. So it's a comedy and horror. The Item. 4 convicts become embroiled in what seems like an easy way to get $1 million. Enlisted to pick up a sealed box and guard it for one day, the 4 men let their curiosity take over and decide to look at its contents. Bad move. The Night of the Headless Horseman. In this classic tale, based loosely on the legend of Sleepy Hollow, Ichabod Crane, the town's new schoolmaster, is instantly enamored with the book, but he must compete for the love. Tommy. A traumatized young woman is trying to recover the memories with the help of a psychiatrist. Crime, drama, horror, and mystery. Tommy. This is also a Japanese horror film. Check it out. Townies. Welcome to Scalarb, Ohio, a small county seat overrun by misfits, freaks, and weirdos. Dark comedy, and horror. Townies. Urban Menace. An insane preacher, Snoop Dogg, seeks retribution from the local crime syndicate for the death of his family and the burning of his church. Snoop Dogg, Big Pun, Ice-T, Fat Joe, action and horror. Vampires of Sorority Row. Pledges at a sorority house are plagued by a former sister who happens to be a vampire. Comedy and horror. Vampires of Sorority Row. You do not want to join that house. Virus. I love this movie. After outrunning a typhoon at sea, a strong-willed tugboat navigator and her crew discover a high-tech alien life form that's taking control of a Russian research vessel and aims to destroy on a massive scale. Warlock 3, The End of Innocence. I love Warlock. A woman on a quest to find her ancestry comes upon an evil in her family house. B-horror, supernatural horror, witch horror. Warlock 3, End of Innocence. Wild Zero. Only legendary Japanese garage rock band Guitar Wolf can stand between a race of aliens from destroying Earth with an army of zombies. Parody, satire, comedy, and horror. Wishmaster 2, Evil Never Dies. The evil Jinn is awakened once more and must collect 1,001 souls to begin the apocalypse. We love Wishmaster. All the Wishmasters are great. And it's evil. Witch House. On May Day 1998, in the town of Dunwich, Massachusetts, Elizabeth gathers together a group of specially selected friends for a rather odd party. Mayhem and horror ensues. Witch House. Evil beyond evil. Those were all the horror films that were released in 1999. Those were all the best films. The best horror films that were released in 1999. Which horror films do you remember from 1999? What were your favorite horror films of the 90s? Now that we covered every single year of the 90s, 1990 through 1999, what were some of your favorite horror films? What do you notice from the horror films of the 90s versus the horror films from the 80s versus the horror films from the 70s? My recollection is the horror films from the 70s had a lot to do with piranhas, barracudas, sharks, frogs, reptiles, animal type killing, reptile type killings, right? And then towards the end of the 70s with 78 and Halloween, you started getting slasher films. In the 80s, you had galore. Every year had slasher films. Slasher films where a deranged lunatic escapes, killing people, killing teenagers, killing a group of friends, a group of hikers, a group of people. It's always a group of kids being killed by a serial killer slasher horror. Now in the 90s, you had a few slasher horrors also, but I started noticing a lot more reptile movies, with snakes and cobras and Godzillas and alligators and so forth. So what trends did you notice from the 90s, from the 80s, as far as horror films? Right? Those were all the best horror films in 1999. We have now officially closed the chapter and the decade of all the best horror films of the 90s. Stay tuned now for all the best horror films of the 2000s. The 2000s were iconic, they were wild, they were different, obviously, from the 90s and the 80s and the 70s. So stay tuned as we explore the decade of the 2000s, 2000 to 2009. All right, I'm Tony. Thanks for watching Yesteryear. We're going to cover the best horror films. We love horror films. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, leave them below. Thank you all for subscribing. Thank you for your support. And I'll see you all real soon for the best horror films of the 2000 decade. All right, bye everybody.